Hello everyone. Tonight, a state of emergency. That's how stakeholders in the export and import business describe high shipping charges.
Count all God-given days with no recourse to the legal application smacks of every other thing but fairness. It should be noted that the shipping lines do not work on weekends.
Freight charges are expected to go up again in the next 2 weeks. Is already impacting on goods on the local market. We'll bring you that report. Also, hopeful, we hear from why Secretary General of the AICFTA Secretariat is positive the West African common currency will become reality.
An assessment of the pilot of the PAPs, as we call it, in these 6 countries, we will then be in a position working with Afreximbank to roll this out to the rest of the African continent.
And on course, the Ghana Revenue Authority says it is close to raising tax revenue of 60 billion cedis this year, far higher than the previous year.
For the past 2 or 3 years, we have been able to meet the targets that have been given to us. But we believe that the kind of growth that we are seeing is not what will take us to where we are aiming to.
My name is Darryl Kwao. This is Business Live. We will be right back. Tonight, some stakeholders in the import and export industry have described Ghana's skyrocketing arbitrary shipping charges as a state of emergency. The Ghana Institute of Freight Forwarders, GIF, and the Ghana Union of Traders Association and other business bodies say the country will find itself in a crisis if government does not intervene. At a media briefing in Tema, President of GIF, Edward Akrong, itemized some areas that add to the cost of doing business in the country that already rely heavily on imports. Correspondent Kwame Yanka has more.
For these stakeholders, inappropriate fees and charges borne by importers, additional charges for use of online payments, coded invoices, among others, frustrate port business. According to Edward Akron, administrative fees, day count charges for container-free days, exchange rate differentials, container deposits, and blacklisting of agents result in high cost of business transaction. Backing his argument, Mr. Akron says Section 44(5) of the Interpretation Act 2009, Act 792 settles the confusion on how days should be counted with respect to container-free days, although actions of shipping lines contradict the law. Ghana Shippers Authority looks on helplessly. Touching on this, Edward Akron highlights some challenges impeding port business.
What can be the justification for a shipping line agent to begin counting free days for the trader when the box is not at the disposal of the trader's agent? For the shipping lines to intentionally begin the count, sometimes when vessels are at anchorage, when vessels have not fully discharged their cargo, count all God-given days with no recourse to the legal application smacks of every other thing but fairness. It should be noted that the shipping lines do not work on weekends, thus truncating the clearance process, although our ports are operating 24/7.
On his part, President of the Ghana Union of Traders Association, Dr. Joseph Obin, says businesses are losing their capital daily due to these charges. A trader was to pay $15,000 as freight charges for 40-footer container on Tuesday, but this had shot up to $20,000 by Wednesday.
There are a whole lot of illegal charges that is going on the part of the shipping lines, and we think that is a rip-off, and it's even an affront for the Ghanaian shipping community. We have a contract with these shipping lines. We pay freight charges. Embedded in these freight charges are the operational cost. If they have not factored these operational costs, what we are telling government is that they should let them factor all operational costs, and then we pay this offshore before even our goods come. Because in the case where they give a continuum piling up all manner of charges, which is not legitimate, is not to be tolerated any longer.
For the business community, any additional charges incurred are passed on to the final consumer, hence raising the cost of living. Kwame Yanka's report for Joy Business.
Well, we'll continue from where Kwame Yanka ended. Now, the spike in freight charges is a major reason for rising prices of building materials and some goods on the local market. That's according to the Association of Ghana Industries. Parliament has already commenced investigations into the issue, whilst the Council of State has also been engaging businesses to find some solutions to this challenge. Speaking on PM Express Business Edition, Chief Executive of the Association of Ghana Industries, Sechuma Kwabwa, said some intervention from government is necessary to deal with the situation.
I think that sectors that are not directly affected by such gatherings are gradually picking up. The construction industry, for example, people are going about their normal business. I was surprised
because I stand to be educated. I look at the BOG data and cement sales have shot up. It appears the construction sector was one of the few areas that was immune from COVID. So, was it that robots were building or what? Sorry.
No. Construction sector wasn't immune from COVID at all, because during the COVID period, construction really went down.
Okay.
But I think part of the reason why the data is also showing so is because the prices of cement has gone up. So when you see the volumes and you are looking at it in terms of the turnover, naturally it will go up. But in volumes, it may not have gone up that much. In fact, cement prices during COVID period was about 35 cedis or so. Today it's almost 50 cedis. So significant increase. And therefore, if you look at just the turnover in the face value, you would think that construction has gone up so much. I think one major challenge that most of the construction companies have is when they do government projects and they don't get paid. So that is one area that they have a challenge. But generally speaking, at the private sector level and at the individual level, I think that because of the economy opening up, construction is gradually picking up as well. But don't forget that very soon we are actually into the lean season. During the rainy season, it goes down a little bit. So in the third quarter, we shouldn't expect a significant increase in construction again, and the last quarter probably to come up again. So it's sort of fluid, but generally speaking, I would say the recovery is gradually coming up, and we are seeing it in several sectors.
But you're talking about some other sectors that are still struggling. Hospitality is expected because the demand often was coming from outside. Are there any other areas that it was expected that by now things should have picked up, but they are still struggling?
Yes, there are other areas such as the garment sector. One would have expected that has nothing to do with, people coming to the country.
You're wearing a clothes. Whether COVID or no COVID, yes, we still have to dress up.
But don't forget that when the events are not taking place, when the big gatherings are not taking place, people are not buying new clothing and all that. You may not see, there is the micro issues that impact at the macro level. So at the micro level, at the individual level, when people are not buying so much, the global effect is that the demand generally will drop.
A lot of people are working from home.
People are working from home, so you are not dressing that much. In your beautiful suit, if you are not coming to the office, I'm sure you are home, you wouldn't be wearing this. So all these are having effect to some extent.
Now, the African Continental Free Trade Secretariat is hopeful the common currency for West Africa will become reality despite the recent setback to the agenda. The ECO is expected to promote intra-Africa trade and economic activities amongst West African economies. There's more in this report.
Engaging the media on the status of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, Secretary General of the AICFTA, Mene, says the Secretariat has launched the pilot phase of the Pan-African Payment Settlement System to reduce the over-reliance on foreign exchange while trading under the pact.
The transactions are taking place in those 6 countries, and once there has been an assessment of the pilot of the PAPs, as we call it, in these 6 countries, we will then be in a position working with Afreximbank to roll this out to the rest of the African continent. This is a very important development because we have 42 currencies in Africa. The cost of converting currencies to the dollar amounts to $5 billion a year. This is a very, very important this is a very, very big amount of money that can actually be can be seen as revenue forgone, and so we want to reduce and eliminate this cost to converting currencies in Africa for the purpose of trading. And it is the PAPS, the Pan-African Payments and Settlement System, is a very, very important pillar of implementation of the AICFTA, and we are grateful to Afreximbank for making liquidity available, up to $1 billion available, in order to operationalize the Pan-African Payments and Settlement System.
Mene further indicated that AICFTA Secretariat is hopeful the common currency for West Africa will come off despite the recent setback to the agenda. The ECO is expected to promote intra-African trade and economic activities among West African economies.
The ECO as a single currency and the impact this is going to have on the AICFTA, well, it will have the similar impact as a payments and settlement platform, because it will it will address the constraints that are associated with trade, the costs that are associated with trade on the continent, or at least amongst the countries of the ECO, and this is what we want to see. There is an objective that one day Africa will be a monetary union. It is there in the Abuja Treaty as one of the stages of, as the highest stage of Africa's integration. And so I expect that, I don't know when, but Africa one day will have a common currency. People never thought that we would have a free trade area in Africa, and now we have it. And so I am confident that one day the African continent will have a single currency.
The statement also stated that final stages and preparations are underway to launch the AICFTA Adjustment Facility to mitigate the possible negative impact on revenues resulting from the implementation of the AICFTA agreement.
The Ghana Revenue Authority says it's on course to raise tax revenue of 60 billion cedis this year, representing a 32.3% increase over that of 2020's actual collection of 40 billion cedis. Commissioner General Amishadai Osomwa made this known during a workshop to train some selected judges on operational areas and enforcement provisions of the Ghana tax laws. This would aid the judges in the prosecution of tax cases in the courts.
For the past 2 or 3 years, we have been able to meet the targets that have been given to us. But we believe that the kind of growth that we are seeing is not what will take us to where we are aiming to, where our objectives are, what we are aiming to arrive at. And one of the things that we ought to do is the issue about enforcement and then compliance. This year we have targeted ourselves that we want to deliver 60 billion Ghana cedis, even though the government budget is 58 billion. I can say that we are on course, but we need to be able to raise the bar further. As we know that Ghana have talked about, the Minister have talked about, the Minister of Finance, the Obantampa project, which requires that we are able to raise additional 100 billion, out of which 30 billion has been allocated to Ghana Revenue Authority over the next 3 years. In other words, apart from our normal target, we are supposed to deliver additional 30 billion. And this is because with the COVID-19 issues that have come up, there are a lot more expenditure that the government and there are a lot of more development that the government aims at achieving over the next 3 years. And therefore, there's additional revenue that we have to deliver. In order to deliver this additional revenue, we need a concerted effort from us as the tax authority, from you as the law courts, and from the taxpayers, so that together as a nation, we'll be able to raise the necessary revenue to develop our country and to put us back on the successful track for which the government had been going until COVID-19 came in.
About 300,000 businesses have been captured as dead firms by the Registrar General's Department. These firms have not renewed their business documents or have not updated their records at all. The Registrar General's Department says the practice is unhealthy and has expressed worry about the situation. Jemima Oware is Registrar General. She has been speaking with Joy Business on our maiden CEO show on social media.
You can convert it from a business name into a limited liability. And at that level, you would have grown the business to the stage where you can afford a company secretary. You can afford an auditor. You need an auditor, a qualified chartered accountant. Now, these are very expensive professionals, and that's the kind of expertise we require in a company. So if you're not ready for it, don't go for it. There are very strict requirements. You're supposed to be filing returns 18 months after incorporation, and then yearly thereafter. Now, there are penalties. And because people didn't know the different types of businesses, everybody just got up and said, I want a company. And that is how come I have a bloated register full of dead companies. They just register it one-off. Maybe they want a visa, they want a contract, they want to get married, and maybe they should have a company. After they get married, they don't bother to follow up with the requirements of filing returns and all that. And so we have over 300,000 businesses that are not renewing, not updating. That is why this whole cleanup thing came up. So with a company, what I'm saying is it's an association of partners or people, 2 minimum directors, 1 shareholder. That is a private company. A public company, you go
before you go into that, let me just throw in the questions that relate to that. Somebody says, I have a company, he's called Abraham. He's a company that has been out of business for the past 5 years. So I have not been renewing How do I do that when I am ready?
Okay, if it's for the past 5 years, that means he's already in the e-registrar system. He doesn't need to do a re-registration.
Now, the head of capital markets for Guaranteed Trust Bank, Mavis Bosman, is concerned about low patronage of the Ghana alternative market created by the Ghana Stock Exchange. She tells Joy Business companies are not listing, though it is one of the best equity financing avenues for businesses with much institutional investor interest. She spoke with Odelia Ntiamwa.
We set up GACS for what, and have we achieved it? Okay, so GACS was basically set up to ensure that other businesses that did not have the capacity or the requirements that you needed to enroll on the mainstream Ghana Stock Exchange will have access to funding. So the gas requirement was lesser minimum capital, which was pegged at 250,000 cedis, which is more or less more for what we term medium and small scale enterprises here in Ghana. So GACS is still there, it's still running, but I think the main issue with GACS is the publicity or the education on that aspect, that there is an alternative market that has been set up for small scale and medium term enterprises to raise funds, to access or to tap into the public fund or to tap into other private sector funds. The education on that was very low, and a lot of people are not even aware that there's an alternative market for small and medium scale enterprises.
You're watching Business Live. My name is Darryl Kwao. We are taking a short break. We will be right back with some more stories. Well, welcome back from that break and our tour of business news from around the world. Now, the Ghana Water Company Limited, as part of its long-term measure in improving water supply to industries in Tema, has taken steps to dedicate a production center to these commercial customers. The project, currently at the feasibility stage, will draw water from the Volta River around Aveime to feed the industries. Once completed, Ghana Water will take off the industries from the Tema booster to help supply them with enough water, leaving existing lines to domestic users. There is more in this report from Kwame Yanka.
At a stakeholder meeting with industries in Tema, Managing Director of Ghana Water, Engineer Dr. Clifford Brymer, says the company has discussed the project with the Danish embassy. He says the Danish Sustainable Infrastructure Fund has good rates in terms of loan facility to support the project.
Already had a discussion with the Danish embassy. We floated 3 projects. They've settled on this one. We've had a discussion with our sector minister. We've written to her on that. We are waiting for the Minister of Finance to write to the Danida group. They have this Danish Sustainable Infrastructure Fund, where the rates are very good. The concessionary and government of Ghana will be happy to have them. When they write showing support of that, then we kickstart the feasibility. And that's what we have on our own. I've started the feasibility, as I said this morning, because knowing the demand of the company is part of the feasibility.
Although phase 2 of the Pond Water Expansion Project hangs in the balance, Engineer Dr. Brymer sees the need to go ahead with this one.
Because these are different funding agencies. Okay. So the pond halt is as a result of funding. Somebody's processing it, and as I mentioned, it's an EXIM facility, state to state, and diplomatic issues involved. So you will not be able to just cut it because you feel there's a problem. The countries will have to talk to themselves for them to let them know how dire we are as far as the water supply is concerned. Then when we are able to reach there, we can either terminate and get a new person, somebody else to come and do it. But for this one, it's a separate arrangement.
The engagement allowed industries to express their dismay and commendations about services of Ghana Water. Finance manager at Olam Ghana, Abraham Opon, was unhappy with periodic and frequent shortages experienced at the Tema Enclave.
We get water shortages without announcement. Sometimes even the plant maintenance that they want to do, it takes more than the usual time that they give. These are the major concerns that we have. And we have to rely on water tankers. In the month of April this year alone, we spent over 60,000 on tanker water alone, which is more than double our monthly payment that we do for Ghana Water.
Other officials of Ghana Water Company from headquarters and Tema region were also available to respond to issues. Tema Oil Refinery, Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, Sunon Asoglipa, Southern Water, among others, were present. Kwame Yanke's reports for Joy Business.
All right, and that's our program tonight. More news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. My name is Daryl Kwao. I'll be here next week, same time. Do stay tuned.